Pat, Myrna, and Stubb for all of the information and materials that they have contributed. I also want to thank Nancy Edwards, Ruth Hoteling, and Lisa Maffa of the Pompey Historical Society for their help in putting this all together. While reading through Emily's writings, I found that she always had kind things to say about people, places, and animals. Emily's great-great-grandfather, Daniel Raleigh, came from Amenia, New York, not far from the Connecticut border. He was known as Blind Daniel due to his limited eyesight. While in Amenia, he married Sarah Beckwith in 1796. They had 8 children. They moved to Shackham around 1818. Okay. Emily's great-grandfather, Samuel, built the 2-family house in Shackham so that it could be passed on from generation to generation, a father on one side and a married son on the other. For a while, Samuel shared the house with his son Franklin. Then Franklin shared the house with his son Byron. This picture shows Frank Raleigh on the right with his wife Lydia and Mason Berry with his wife Alicia. Byron Raleigh married Myrtle Brown. They had 4 daughters, Eunice, Esther, Irma, and Emily, who was born in 1913. This photo was taken outside of the Shackham homestead on Thanksgiving Day, 1911. On the left are Byron and Myrtle Raleigh with 3 daughters. Emily wasn't thought about yet. On the right are Elmer and Dania Craw with their daughter Eleanor. Here is Emily's dad with a pair of oxen pulling a cart. And this is Byron Raleigh with 2 of his cows. Okay. This picture shows Emily and Esther holding the American flag. Emily's the youngest one. Irma is on the left, and Eunice is on the right. And we made this one into a card, which we started selling on Memorial Day weekend. This picture was dated 1919. The horses, Jenny and Juno, are hooked to the mowing machine. Myrtle Raleigh is in the driver's seat. Emily, Irma, and Esther are standing. Eunice is not in the picture. She was the oldest. When Emily was old enough to go to school, she would walk south on Shackham Road with her sisters and neighbors to a 1-room schoolhouse at least a mile away. It was the same school that her father attended when he was young. Emily's mother was a correspondent for the Tully Times. Emily started contributing verse to the Tully Times at the age of 8. In 1925, Emily was able to ride on a float for the Old Home Day Parade in Fabius. Doc Pine was the driver. The children listed on the float are, but I don't know the exact order, Mary Agnes Patrick, Barbara Comstock, Emily Raleigh, Alice Robbins, Stanley Nichols, Randall Nash, and Richard Bumpus. 2 names are missing in that picture. When Emily learned that money was not important, but life was. She and her family lived it as hilariously as they could. No, not yet. Each season brought different jobs and activities. When it was winter, the girls would watch the neighbors plow the road, slide down hills on sleds, play inside games, go to the Grange Hall to watch silent movies, and warm the bed at night with a flat iron. When spring came, there was the making of maple syrup, picking up stones when fields were prepared for planting, feeding lambs that were rejected by their mothers, and taking care of baby chicks. Of course, there was spring cleaning in the house. The wood stove was put in the wood house. The carpet was rolled up and removed. The straw under the carpet was swept up, and the feather ticks were emptied, washed, and refilled with new feathers. Summertime was fun. At times, Emily got to stay with relatives. She liked to go barefoot. The girls would ride horseback to check the fences and bring the cows out of the pasture and to the barn. A favorite drink during haying season was Switzel, and I hope you all get to try it a little bit later. Her father raised oats, corn, potatoes, and hay. Autumn was used to prepare for winter. The wood pile was replenished, the chimney was cleaned, the garden was also cleaned out, the family made pickles, canned vegetables and fruit, collected nuts, stored apples, and picked corn. Corn roasts brought many people to the bonfire. Medicinal items were stored in the attic: liniments, goose grease, dry mustard, powdered sulfur, and herbs such as peppermint, wintergreen, musk, fennel, and thoroughwort. Emily's father made a beeswax concoction that would heal blisters and cuts in days. These are just a few of the things that the girls did during the year. And if you read the book Shackham, you'll read more of the things that they did. Emily's grandfather, Franklin Raleigh, moved to the village of Fabius before 1919. He lived in the last house on the west side of Route 91 heading north, just a few houses north of Charlie Shea. Emily stayed with her grandfather during the week while going to school. Mabel Virgil Pullen remembers Emily living there. Mabel told me that her uncle and aunt, Bill and Mabel Woodard, would use their car as a school bus to pick up Emily and other students and take them to school. Mary Shea DeMong became friends with Emily when Emily went to school in Fabius. They were friends for a long time. Mary remembers going to Emily's home in Shackham for a party. There was square dancing and spin the bottle. Mary spent the night sleeping on a mattress filled with corn husks. Emily's mother was not a healthy woman. She had a racking cough and a weakened heart. Her daughters helped her as much as they could. She died before Emily's 14th birthday. During her high school years, Emily worked to earn money for clothes and help buy food for the winter months. She did housework, washed clothes, and babysat. She loved to mop for Gladys Fisher of Tully Valley. Why? The mop pail had a magic ringer on it. In school, Emily worked for Mr. Wright, the principal, who also was a teacher. Mary DeMong thinks that Emily earned $10 per week as a secretary for him. Emily and Mary were very bright students. They advanced from 5th grade into 6th grade ahead of schedule. In high school, they realized that Mr. Wright was an excellent teacher of math and Latin. He was a brilliant man and a great disciplinarian. Miss Brown, another excellent teacher, taught French and English. Mary remembers that Miss Brown took her class to see Merchant of Venice in Syracuse. According to Mary, these teachers made education come alive. Catherine Heffernan was Emily's history teacher. She enjoyed reading Emily's essays about personalities of the past. This is the graduating class of 1931 from the Fabius Academy. In front are Mary Shea DeMung, Emily Raleigh Estey, Marie Law, and Sophie Kellish. In the back are Virginia Henry, Richard Bumpus, Edward Conway, and Clara Breen. Emily was the first to graduate in her family. She was accepted at Cornell, had earned 2 scholarships, but they were not enough to get her into Cornell. Emily graduated from the Fabius Union Free School and Academy on Tuesday, June 23rd, went to the alumni banquet on Thursday, and was married to Elmer Estey on Friday, Elmer's birthday, with Mary Shea as her maid of honor. Reverend Carl Swift performed the ceremony in the Fabius Baptist Church. Lunch followed the ceremony at Franklin Raleigh's house. Her graduation dress served as her wedding dress, which cost $2.98. Their honeymoon was to be spent in Niagara Falls, but with their 1928 Chevrolet acting up, Elmer and Emily rented a room on Skinny Atlas Lake. After the honeymoon, the couple lived in the rebuilt house on Estey Road where Elmer grew up. The original house had burned in 1929. Now remember, they were married in 1931. Their 5 children were born during the time that they lived here in this house. But the children weren't all born in this house. 4 years into their marriage, Emily's father was struck and killed by lightning. During her life on Estey Road, Emily liked to write poetry while taking care of her children and the housework. Extra food was canned. Daughter Lois remembers canned pears in her lunch when she went to the one-room schoolhouse on Ridge Road and Number 4 Road. Lois also remembers having canned meat, which made good beef and gravy. Elmer and Emily milked up to 27 cows at one time. Elmer raised peas for the canning factory, alfalfa for the cows, and Timothy for the horses. In 1942, Elmer was suddenly classified A1, but was not called into service. Emily wanted to be in an area where she could have neighbors, a telephone, electricity, and have a plowed road in the winter. They bought the 2 acres in Pompey Center, which had a large house and a good barn. They clinched the deal with $10 to buy the place for $2,400. That's the house on Pompey Center Road. Now, while living in the house, Emily thought that it would be a good idea to buy the 2 acres across the road and build tourist cabins. Cabin 1 had units 1, 2, and 3. Cabin 2 had units 4, 5, and 6. Cabin 3 had been a chicken house which was moved to the spot where it stands now. Okay? The motel was called the Triple E Motel, using the initials of Elmer Irwin Estey. When the units were all filled, the extra guests were lodged in the main house. Lois remembers walking to the corner of Route 20 and Pompey Center Road to turn off the lights for the motel when they were booked to capacity. As you can see on the left, Myrna and Emily are making a bed, and Pat is here on the right, being artistic, good artist. The children helped their mother to take care of the units in between tourists. The money from this business paid for all 5 children to go to college. While at college, daughter Pat remembers receiving a note, almost like a telegram, from her very busy mother. Emily had sent $10 and a note on the back of a political flyer, which said, "Little bald head on other side elected. In closing, much wampum. Don't spend all in one TB. Stay away from braves. Keep out of war dances. Love from Big Chief and White Squaw Mama." The Esteys enjoyed having horses. Some people remember watching Elmer and Emily square dancing while riding horses. While living in Pompey Center, Emily was the town clerk for 11 years and tax collector for 2 years. She got her real estate license and showed houses for sale to people who bought their marriage licenses from her. She was deputy county clerk until she retired in 1972. Okay, so you can see her entering her office and working with her nephew, Gerald Foster, in the bottom part, and helping her husband with lunch. He was with the Dietz Company. The Estey family was very family-oriented. And this is the family all at the table. And 3 of those people in the picture are here today. Okay? The Estey children are playing instruments. They learned different ones. They may not play today, but they had some talent when they were younger. The picture on the left shows Pat plowing the snow out of the driveway. The middle picture shows one of the dogs that the family owned. And the picture on the right shows Stubb with ribbons and a trophy he had won at horse shows. When the New York State Thruway was opened, the tourists stopped using Route 20. Only Stubb was living at home. The 3 of them moved into one of the motel units. The parents sold the family house and 2 of the small cottage-style houses. Emily and Elmer owned the corner lot where the gas station was. The gas company that ran the station abandoned it due to lack of business. Emily traded the property for a place on Eaton Brook Reservoir, which had an A-frame cottage. They owned it for 13 years. Daughter Pat named the camp the Laughing Place. The Estey children and their families enjoyed the place. And here is Elmer water skiing. Now, this house is on Watervale Road. It's a beautiful home, and with a view of the Brickyard Falls out from out back. The house was large and good for family get-togethers, and they built this while they were living in that cabin in Pompey Center. Like I said, that house was big and they had family get-togethers. Here are 3 of the Estey daughters with their husbands in 1966. And here are Lois, Emily, Myrna, Elmer, and Ann in a group shot.
Oh my goodness.
Here are 11 grandchildren. Steve Brown is front and center. 4.5 years later, he was in my 4th grade class. But this place was costly. The taxes were too high. As Emily was working in the courthouse during this time, she saw a place in Delphi Falls become listed due to taxes. And this is it, after they remodeled it. This 2-family house needed a bit of fixing. Emily guided Elmer on what she wanted to have done to it. They lived on one side and rented out the other half. Elmer's brother, who lived on Barker Hill Road west of Jamesville, was having financial problems. And Emily bought his house and lived there for a short while. She and Elmer bought it and lived in Jamesville. I don't have a picture of that one. By this time, Elmer was retired from the Dietz Company, and Emily was tired of the cold. They moved to the El Paso, Texas area. During her life in New York, Emily had been a columnist for the Post-Standard for 29 years. She had interviewed 2 governors, 12 mayors, and a number of stars. She was also a columnist and a correspondent for the Casanova Republican from 1949 to 1952. Besides that, Emily was the owner and editor of Scrapbook Readings in Pompey. Lois, can you help me on what that is? Scrapbook Readings in Pompey? Don't know it? No, Myrna? Okay. Anybody? That's all I read, so I figured she had written it, so I don't know what it was. She had been a director of the Onondaga Historical Association, as she liked to collect antiques, a member of the Central New York branch of American Pen Women, and a member of the Theta Sigma Phi, which was a national honor for professional women in journalism and communications. Elmer may have retired, but Emily didn't. As you can see, this is her business card advertising herself as a freelance writer. Emily enjoyed getting together with her sister Irma. This was taken July 4th, 1976. Here are Emily and Irma in September 1981. This picture shows Irma and her husband Clarence Sinsbaugh with Elmer and Emily. The Esteys lived in Texas for 17 years and then moved to Roswell, New Mexico in 1988. Not long after that, the doctors found a cancerous tumor in Emily and they removed a kidney. Then in 1989, Emily had a stroke which left her legally blind. Did that stop her? No. She used a computer and a scanner to help her read and write. In 1992, she wrote columns in the Horizon City News and the Tiburon Mountaineer and taught an adult class in creative writing. Emily passed away June 11, 1995, at the age of 81. She was a talented writer. Her creativeness has carried on to her children and her grandchildren. Her memories of growing up and living as an adult were used in her columns and her books. Papa was positive, Where Has Yesterday Gone, Shackham, and her poetry was published in 2 booklets, Lilacs and Mistletoe, and The Candleshine. Here is a limerick that she had written. A bald-headed salesman named Brady tried some shoes on a nearsighted lady. She saw 3 bare knees, threw her skirt over these. He said, "Goodness, how quick it got shady." I have thoroughly enjoyed learning so much about Emily Raleigh Estey, a friend of my father's, and the mother of Lois and Ann, who were teachers in the Casanova Elementary Building, where I started teaching in the fall of 1970. We have the book Shackham for sale on the back table by the sign-in sheet, and we have cards of Emily and her folks. And I will now turn the program over to Ruth Hoteling and Nancy Edwards, who is a relative of Emily and her children.
Emily Estey as our continuing presence, and we try to do that every year to honor a past resident of the town that has passed away. So this year we selected Emily because Sandy was going to work on Emily also. And we have a display in the hoteling room. The museum is open Sunday afternoons from 2 to 4. We are also there on Tuesdays, usually from about 10 to 4, but this week, Tuesday, we have an appointment at 2 o'clock, so we'll be out in the portion of that afternoon, but if you're in town, we'll be there definitely Tuesday morning until about 1 o'clock. And if you really wanted to go after this sad time, I could drive to Pompey Center and open the museum and go in and see that display today. If you're interested, tomorrow we are having a veterans program to honor former residents of the town now that have served in the Korean and Vietnam War. So if you're interested in that at all, tomorrow afternoon at 2 to 4 at the Heritage Center in the pole barn. And you'll be most welcome. Yes. Nancy's going to make me now. Scholarship Club. We thank anybody who has taught at Fabius Pompey or taxpayers of Fabius Pompey. I know you thank the friends and family of Emily Estey who have contributed to that at the time of her death. It has given many good scholarships since her death every year to a student at Fabius Pompey High School that shows talent in creative writing. And it's a good scholarship too because it's a $300 yearly scholarship. And so that's important for a small district. I did check in with the treasurer of the school district, and the funds are slowly dwindling down. So to keep it going, we think it would be a nice idea if some of our local people in Fabius and Pompey could contribute to that fund. We have a jar at the museum in the continuing presence for contributions, which a granddaughter from Florida last week did make a contribution to Genevieve, and we thank her for that. And I have the address and the information how you can make out checks, so if you'd like one of these slips of paper, they're available. And we hope that people will really contribute to that because it is a nice thing to keep Emily's desire for writing to go. And I like what her family shared with us, the notebooks that came with the awards that she received once she got out west. And I have a couple of those that she got awards for hanging up that we copied because they pertain to our area, and one especially pertains to your family roots, coming home and seeing your home again. And so we welcome you all, and we thank you. We'll put these right on the back table for you.
Ruth said what I was going to say, that we have this display for the rest of the summer, and we hope you can come. Once again, we're open on Sundays from 2 to 4, and we'd be happy to open the museum for you today if you're interested. And Daniel Rowley and his wife Sarah Beckwith had so many children, and at least 4 of the sons stayed in the area. Some of them went west. But those 4 sons that stayed in the area have, of course, generations and generations to today. So if you are wondering if you're related to the Rowleys, to Daniel and Sarah, we have Linda Rowley Partridge. Stand up, would you, Linda? Who has done 3 volumes of genealogy on the Rowleys. And you can look yourself up in the 3rd volume especially because there's a index. And I am related to Emily. Emily and my father, Charles Wendell Skeel, were 3rd cousins. So that should make me a 3rd cousin once removed. Okay. And thank you, Sandy, so much for a wonderful, wonderful research and presentation. And we have a Sue?
Well, I was just going to suggest, I know 2 of the relatives here, and maybe you want to have the relatives stand and introduce themselves.
I think that's a great idea.
on Emily's grandson?
I did, you
Well, it's
better
his
do
husband.
it.
Yeah.
I'm James Steele.
I'm Leon.
Go ahead, tell us who you are.
Speak up, you're on camera. Go ahead.
Betty Jensen, Nicholas, niece.
Ariel Jensen Francis. We are Irma's daughters.
Go ahead, Uncle
And
Glenn.
Linda?
What?
This is Glenn Foster. He's Emily's nephew. I'm Linda Partridge, and Emily's great, what would be niece, great niece.
Sam Foster, great nephew.
Behind you.
Larry?
Larry Jensen, son of Doris, and daughter of Irma.
Okay, so.
Wow.
Does anyone have questions for Sandy, perhaps? Comments?
Read the books.
Here's a question.
Yes.
Are there any collections of her writings from the post-standard?
Oh, yes.
We, luckily, from the Vivian Snyder estate, we inherited a scrapbook that she had kept, and the family gave it to us, and the pictures that you saw of the cabins in that, and the house in its original form, they were all in a post-standard Sunday section of the newspaper, and we were able to reproduce that. And so that was in her scrapbook, plus many along the post articles that she wrote in 1953 and 54.
So we have all those up at the museum.
I was 10 or 12 when Larry Bumpus was killed, and I still remember the headline of her article, and it said, "Crying over spilled milk." And they had gone over to his, Bumpus's brother's farm to get the milk, and they were coming up the hill, and two guys were racing, and Lynn said, "Move over, Rosie," and then the other guy hit him.
Oh,
And it
Well,
was horrible, and Larry
yes.
died on Labor.
oh my.
So,
It may be in that
he
collection.
was 5 or 7 years old.
Oh, how sad. Yes.
I was going to say that
Right.
her first two books, Papa Was Positive and Where Did Yesterday Go, are actually
Right.
collections of her columns from the Post-Standard,
Yes, thank you.
among other things, but that's mainly what they are.
Right.
And there is, I've been trying almost since her death as a small publisher to try to
Yes.
gain the rights to all the books so that I can republish them as one anthology.
That would be
We're getting
wonderful.
Does she
close
have a
to that.
website?
I'm sorry?
Does she have a website?
No, no. But she will.
Thank you, Brian, that's wonderful. That's wonderful that you're going to preserve those in a body. But yes, Myrna.
You mentioned, or Sandy mentioned, that I think all of us kids, so-called kids, have written or read
Oh,
stuff.
yes, I enjoyed
And
yours.
a lot of this, I've never known or seen pictures.
It's great.
That's great.
Emily wrote the beginning of our volume 1, Pompey, Our Town and Profile. She wrote a wonderful poem about the knuckles of Pompey, including Fabius too. Fabius was part of Pompey, in case you didn't know that. But she writes about the hills, the knuckles. I think that's a wonderful passage. You'll see it up at the museum.
Now, I went through Nancy's scrapbooks, the Raleigh scrapbooks that she has, and I gained several of those pictures, those early pictures from 1919. That's how I was able to get those, because she has them in her scrapbook.
And Sandy took and found out things about them that are, but anyway. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, folks, we have some really great refreshments, am I right? Irene's out of town and Sandy had to do all this herself, but we've got some great things for you. Feel free to hang around, talk to each other, ask questions. We are so glad that you came, and so glad that people took the trouble to put this all together. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I got them all ordered. You gotta get them printed.
That was interesting.
I can tell them a lot more.
I know. Good, how are you? Stories.